And welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money with your host, Michelle Graves, affectionately known as the Money Lady for over 40 years, nationally, internationally, and even as close as your local television station. I'm honored to be here, and I'm also honored to just have you as my look in, listen in. You know, my commitment is to you and your family and your ability to prosper during these challenging times. As a part of what I've been talking about, we've covered a lot of different topics, and that's going to continue. But I have a very special guest today, and she is, in my opinion, she's so representative of today's modern woman. And I say modern woman because the women today are a little bit ahead of women in my generation. We went through a whole lot to become the women we were, but I'm looking at what's out here today, and it's impressive. I'm serious. They rocking with it. They're going through the same things in some ways, but very different in other ways. And my guest today is no different. Her name is Raven Mundy. I met Raven. She was a media personality in Cincinnati, Ohio. And she's one of those people I just fell in love with. I did. She was just banging. She was smart, she was articulate, she was straightforward. And I enjoyed every guest appearance I made on her radio show. So we had a great time, developed a good relationship. And when she left media, which actually I wasn't upset about because she was so much more talented than the people that were around her. No dismissing guys, but the women do have it going on. So I thought I would invite her in to talk about her transition from media to what she's doing now as a salesperson. And for whatever you know or don't know about sales, salespeople are the oil in the machine. And everybody
Yes.
out here has been sold something. You may not think it, but you have dealt with sales. So how are you, Raven?
I'm doing good this morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I love your outfit. You all wear some of the most interesting, I mean, that crochet number is just banging. It's beautiful, beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful. So tell me about how you got into media to begin with. And then we're going to move on
Um,
into you. Give me a little bit of background about you.
yeah, so when it comes to media, honestly, it was kind of God's plan. I was working a decent job doing most of my work history before media was like customer service, retail, front desk, admin kind of stuff. And I was good at, talking to people and kind of building those quick, familiar relationships that are required when you are trying to handle somebody's customer service issue or if, especially in retail, trying to get them to buy something. And so, I did that for most of my adult work history up until then. But one day I just kind of looked up and realized that I felt like I wasn't doing anything meaningful. I felt like I wasn't making any kind of real impact. And I knew that there was more that I could be doing.
Mm.
And I, at the time, had a job. It was the most money I had been paid in all of my jobs before. But I hated it. I hated it. And it wasn't necessarily the work that I hated. I just didn't like that I didn't feel fulfilled in the role. And so, without any kind of plan, I just really one day broke down and I prayed and I asked God, just guide my path. Show me where it is you want me to be, and whatever it takes to be there, I'll do it. And not long after that, He put it on my heart to quit that job. I had no plan, I had no
I
backup.
hear
I
you.
really didn't know what He wanted me to do. But He said what He said, and so I was obedient and I quit that job, and then I became a hustler. I went and I did DoorDash and Uber Eats and all kinds of stuff just to, make ends meet between time. And funnily enough, one day I was out doing some deliveries and something came on the radio. It was a commercial for Ohio Media School. And I just kind of, I'd heard the commercial before and was like, that sounds kind of interesting, but, I'm comfortable what I'm doing. But I think on that day in particular, because I was looking for my next thing, and even as a kid, I had always kind of like dreamt about being on the radio. I was a radio kid growing up. These kids today, they don't know nothing about the radio. They
No,
stream everything.
no.
But I grew up listening to the radio. And so it had always been kind of a dream of mine to be, one of those voices that you hear when you're in the car. And funnily enough, I think I was reached out. I think I might have even Google searched it or something. Was playing around on the website, and then they called me because I guess I filled out some kind of like preliminary application or something on the website, and they called me maybe a few minutes later and was like, "Yeah, we
Wow.
want you to come take a tour." And I came. I took the tour, and at the end of the tour, they were like, "All right, when you want to start?"
Mm.
Before I could even made up my mind, they were like, "Okay, when you want to start? Sign here." And I just kind of went with it. And from then on, I was kind of figuring out my interests when it comes to media. I learned a lot. I learned how to video edit. I learned how to, I interned for a social media management company, which I'm very grateful for because now I do that freelance. But I was kind of dipping my toe in a few different things. But towards, I want to say like closer towards the end of my time there, what I did was I got really close with the lady who worked in career. She worked in like careers or career opportunities or something like that. And she had somebody coming in from the radio station to do mock interviews, and it was called a cohort. So the class that I was with was called a cohort. Our cohort hadn't even reached the stage of mock interviews yet. But for whatever reason, she just felt like I really needed to sit in front of this person and do mock interviews. And so I did. And after the mock interview, the lady who was the representative from the radio station, she said, "I would love for you to come in and do a real interview. We're looking for somebody like you." And I did. It took them a little while to get back to me, but I did. I went to do the interview, and I was there for 5 years. Learned a
Wow.
lot. I loved it. It didn't pay very well, but I did. I did love it. I gained quite a bit. I met great people like the Money Lady, who I love dearly. But I really gained a love for community involvement and just people and talking to people and offering them resources. A base part of my show was to kind of be that town hall, that place where people could come and have access and conversations with people in the community who had resources. And it just bolstered that natural instinctual, you know, pull towards advocacy. And I think that that's what I've been able to kind of transition from media into what I do now in sales. I do healthcare sales now. I recruit new patients to a healthcare provider, and we serve communities who are typically low income, and we only serve seniors. Everybody who's 55
That
and
is
up.
so perfect.
Yeah, we serve seniors, and I love it because I grew up with my grandmother. She raised me. I'm her caretaker, so I'm quite intimate with all of the issues that directly affect seniors, and healthcare is a big one. It's a huge one, and I love what I do now, being able to give them help, access to healthcare, and make sure that they're being taken care of the way they deserve to. You worked way too hard, way too long to get to the towards the end stages of your life cycle and have your healthcare be something that's complicated and that is hard to have access to. And so
I totally,
I
I totally agree with
I
that.
love what I'm doing. Yeah.
I so agree with that, particularly when it comes to seniors. I am a senior, and I will tell you, despite all the years I've been in this industry, this has been the most challenging aspect of my life because you're older, and instead of things being simpler, they are just off the chart. I'm just
Yeah.
like, can I have a civil conversation with a normal human being on the phone? So I understand, and we're going to talk about that more because I think you bring such value in terms of what you're doing right now as a help for our senior community. It's terrible out here, Miss Munday. I am
It
telling you,
is.
and I should know better, but I am appalled at what our seniors are having to go through to get anything, and they put in all these years of their lives to wind up at the end of the story struggling and not enough money and on and on and on. This is not right. But I understand your transition. We're going to go back to transition from you went to media school, because this is for other people. I have all kinds of people watching this show from all over this country and globally. So you started off, you went to a specific school for media, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that was a decision that you thought about? Did you spend a lot of time thinking about that before you got involved? You just did it.
Mm, I just did it. Like I said, I knew the conversations that I had been having with God at that time.
Okay.
I knew that He had kind of put me. When I tell you that day sitting outside of my job before I quit it, I
Yeah.
was bawling in tears because I knew that something was wrong. I was not I could, before I even knew what it was, I could physically feel the misalignment where I wasn't on path or on track with my purpose.
Okay.
And it was just so physically overwhelming that I said, you know what, God, whatever you say is next. It doesn't
Right.
even, I don't care what it is and what it looks like. Whatever you say is next, I will do that. And it was really a faith walk and an obedience walk. Whenever I had that feeling in my chest that I had that same day where I said, God, whatever you say goes, whatever was giving me that feeling was what I was doing. And like I said,
Mm-hmm.
hearing that commercial on the radio one day, it gave me that feeling that there's something here and I don't know what it is, but there's something here drawing me towards this. And so when I went and did the tour, and at the end he was just like, well, when do you want to start?
Ah,
Okay,
that's
God.
amazing. That is
Okay,
that is so,
God.
but what would you say to other young women that were in your situation? Because there's so many young and talented women out here today that do not seem to be intentional. And do you think that was the difference? Like, um, you
I
need
think
to,
that I think that especially millennial age, right? A
yeah,
lot of us, when we came out of high school and we began to try and become the architect of our own lives, I
correct.
think a lot of us, we had all these expectations, right? Coming out of college or whatever vocational school or whatever the case may be, whatever that second phase of education for us was, or that transition into adulthood. A lot of us ended up feeling like I did everything right and I'm still not where I want to be.
I
And
totally get
so,
it. I get
and
it.
so a lot of us were in our mid 20s, either having gotten that 4 year degree or that certification and being in that field, and we realize, wait, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life.
No,
This is not what makes me happy. This is not what makes me fulfilled. They told me that if I do everything by the book, that I would be making a certain amount of money, that I would be, every most of the people that I grew up believed. I'm 33 years old. Most of the people that I grew up believed at that time, by 33, I would be married with a couple of kids and I would be living, doing my dream career. What most of us have realized at 30 is that, yeah, I'm gonna have to start from scratch because I'm none of the none of the things that I thought were gonna be my life at 30 are my life, and I'm not sure where I went wrong. But now I just don't. I have to kind of figure it out, and I think that's where I was. I was 25, 26 when I went back to school, but I was still like in that phase of, I just know that something is wrong here and I don't know what to do about it, but I'm going to trust God. I think that's also maybe part of it. But even if you're somebody who doesn't believe, I think that just innately there is that feeling. I say it all the time. Everybody has a calling. And
Yes.
I believe that a lot of us are just scared to go after our calling because we went after what we were told to go after that first time and it didn't work out. And so now there is this insecurity, there is this fear of failure that a lot of us have that stops us from pursuing anything other than what feels comfortable or what feels safe, even if that safe comfortable thing is misaligned with what would actually give us the joy and the happiness and the peace that we seek for ourselves. And I do
You're
think that a lot of women unfortunately are in that find themselves in that space because on top of us trying to figure out how to have the career of our dreams, we're also trying to figure out how to get the man of our dreams and the family of our
my
dreams on
dreams.
top of it. And so we get so dead set on making sure that career portion of our life is set in stone so that we can put all our energy and our focus into relationships and marriage and kids and stuff like that. And I think we do ourselves a disservice when we do that.
I
If
think
you
you do
can
as well.
find a way
Mm-hmm. You're right.
to establish the purpose, the calling that makes you feel amazing, the man will come. I'm not even really dating very much right now, but men are flooding me because I'm on calling. I'm on purpose and they see it in me. I exude a certain level of confidence and peace and joy that men are attracted to because I'm on purpose. I'm focused on what God told me to be focused on right now. And I think learning that is been the biggest blessing out of everything. I think that the way that unfortunately, the way that women are conditioned is to prioritize the man and the family and all those things first, and then maybe we'll get the chance to have the dream career. But as long as you are focused on, like I said, being in alignment with your calling and your purpose, everything else gets added to you. And that's the way it's supposed to be. If you read that Bible, that's the way it's supposed to be. A lot of women
That's
are,
correct.
aspire to be a Proverbs 31 woman, but if you read about who she is and how she moved, she was all of those things before she ever got married.
She was. And that's something that I so appreciate what you're saying, and the timeliness of you saying it now, because never have I met so many females, black and white, who have no understanding of who they are and where they're going. And I don't know, Raven, if they need a coach or if they just need to experience life, because life is going to teach you some lessons that college and everything else did not. It's going to teach you that even when you think you are best prepared, you probably aren't. And even when you think things are mapped out, it probably isn't. So I appreciate what you're sharing with my viewing audience, because in my opinion, when I met you, I said, "Oh, this girl is something to be looking at." And I was absolutely persuaded that what you were doing at the time that we were talking was not what you ultimately would be doing. And so I'm watching your moves, I'm watching how you're doing it, and I still remain committed to the conversation among your generation about what do you feel is your call? What are you
Yeah,
supposed to be about? Is that something that other young women resonate from your opinion?
I believe so. I do think that, like I said, there is this confidence factor that gets in the way of that. Because like I said, not even just women, but millennials in general, a lot of us had the general consensus between a lot of us is that we were sold a dream.
Oh, you
We were
were. It was
sold
you
we
were. You were.
Right. So
You
we were
were.
told that by a certain age, we would, like I said, we'd be married with children. We'd have bought our first home by now. We'd be in a way better place financially. And then the market crashed, and then nine
Yeah.
11, and then all of these things that, like, kind of robbed us of that, 4-year plan or that dream that we were sold in as as kids coming out of high school. Now, like I said, we're all sitting up at 30 and realizing I got to start from scratch. If I
Hmm.
want any of those things, if I can get any of things, I might have to start from scratch to really enjoy any of this. And so I
And
do
you
think that, like I
may,
said,
you may,
there's
you
a bit
may.
of PTSD that comes from,
Uh-huh.
trying to do things the right way, and
But
then now
see,
you
Raven, my generation lied to you. We lied to you because we didn't know ourselves. We
yeah,
didn't know stuff. Our parents didn't tell us anything. They didn't know. And so you have a generational thing where you were taught, in my opinion, lies. It is unrealistic in America to think that you are going to be the boss of somebody else's company. That doesn't play. You may go up to a certain level, but the competition gets tighter and tighter and harder, and your generation is not feeling that. Millennials, oh no, no.
yeah.
And viewers,
We
just so
will quit
you
a
are,
job in a hot second.
oh no, this group is not sticking around for nothing. And
Hmm.
we did this because the expectation that you could do, I mean, Shaka Khan, I'm every woman.
Hmm.
Really? If you every woman, you crazy. That's what you are. You're not among the living. I don't know who you living around because that's not, but that's what we were taught. And I think we were taught that because it was a hope. Our parents wanted a better
Hmm.
situation than what we were looking at. They did not want us to be up under the yoke of racism, sexism, misogynism. They did not want that for us, but it was inevitable
Yeah.
because you are in a capitalist system that does not value your contributions as a woman. They do not value your contributions as a black person, and in your case, black and a female. They don't
which
honor.
is which is which is which has its own unique challenges, because I always try to explain it to somebody that I'm oppressed 3 times. I'm
Okay,
oppressed as just plainly black, and then I'm oppressed as just a woman,
right?
and then there's this thing called misogynoir, which specifically pertains to being a black woman. It's intersectional oppression. And so it's something that, I will say, navigating in corporate spaces, because even when I was in radio, that was still technically a corporate space that I was navigating
Yep.
in. It was still something that I had to really be on my P's and Q's about, moving around in that space and how I did business. Just something as simple as how I would put together an interview with a guest. I spoke with a lot of community leaders, and politicians sometimes would come on my show, and the people that you have access to, the network that you have access to when you are in media, when you work for a company that gives you a paycheck every 2 weeks, whether you want to believe it or not, that you can still follow or be up under a corporate structure
Yep.
without sitting behind a desk and
Yep.
sending
Oh
emails
yeah.
all day and making phone calls all day. And
Right.
that's very much so what I was doing. I was just, my job just involved a little bit more, FaceTime, and I had a platform, but that was still a corporate job.
I
And I
agree.
think that nothing made that more clear to me when I left and they wanted me to sign an NDA.
Oh,
I
come
think that's
on.
what
Come.
that's what really let
Really?
me know how corporate.
Uh,
Yes, that's what really let me know. Oh yeah, this is an actual corporate, because I had to sign a contract. So
but an
when that stuff starts to
NDA, a
get the
non-disclosure. Are
yeah,
you serious?
yeah. And so but I appreciate that for what that was, because it gave me rules to live by transitioning into sales. I now know that no matter how much I think somebody is my friend, you don't have any friends in the corporate world. That's just not a
You
thing.
do not.
It
You
it
do
let me
not.
know that, is I'm the kind of person who wants to be, nice and accommodating and comfortable, but it also, being in that previous situation in media, let me know that I have to be strict and strong about my boundaries. I can't
Right.
always be
Right.
willing to accommodate or willing to, quote unquote, go the extra mile with certain things, because
Right.
then that becomes your duty and your responsibility,
Right.
and nobody
Right.
wants to pay you to do that,
No.
or
It's not in
the
your
one
job
time that you
description.
don't do it,
Yeah.
it's the one time you don't do that extra thing that you were doing off of the strength of your kindness, the one time you don't do it, oh, she no longer is a team player,
Yep.
and it be like, you have to be a lot more strategic in the corporate world than you do your average 9 to 5 or any other industry. There's a lot of strategy involved, a lot of really honing in on the reality of the relationships that you make. You have
Yep.
to think about things a lot more clearly. And to somebody who is an empath, and who is kind-hearted and like myself, it might take you a little time to learn it. I'm not gonna
But
lie
you're
to
gonna
you.
learn
It
it.
did. But you do have to learn it,
Yep,
because if
you
you
do.
don't, you will get taken advantage of.
Well, I know for myself, having been a corporate animal for a sizable part of my career, and looking at what I call the savagery of corporate, because people are competing for fewer and fewer jobs, period. And therefore, because they are not familiar with the game and how it works and how it plays, you run into all of this incredible uh, vitality and youthfulness about situations that are not going to happen. I had one
Yeah.
woman telling me that she was going to run this department, and I said, "Well, how long have you been an executive?" And she said, "Not at all. I've been reading." I said, "Oh my God, girl, reading is not the walk." I said, "When you are dealing with people who are scared of losing their jobs and are willing to throw
Hmm.
you under the bus, and you're their
Hmm.
manager, you've got to watch everything, because truthfully,
Absolutely.
I mean, they're gonna try to position themselves so that they can take what you have built. They're gonna do it."
Because whether you believe it or not,
Mm-hmm.
somebody is always watching you. There are always eyes on you. There's always somebody waiting for you to make a mistake or
Yes.
slip up, or any number of things that could reposition you. Because at the end of the day, um it's more about, because I'm also that kind of person, because I have the kind of bold faith that I too have certain things that I just believe, if I want it, I can have it,
Yeah.
because that's the kind of God that I serve. But at the same time, you get into these corporate spaces and you really learn the politics,
Oh yeah. The politics
and
is everything.
the politics is typically what makes people either, it's real black and white. Either you submit to the politics, or you begin to build your exit ramp. Those are
Yep.
your two options.
Right.
Either you are the kind of person who is able to kind of attach yourself to the right people and do enough of the, brown nosing required, and the and
Right.
the and adopt some of the humiliating humility it required. Like, either you just become that person who is willing to do whatever to get to wherever, or you, if you have a level of respect for yourself, 9 times out of 10, you'll go through things that will make you realize, yeah, I need to build myself an exit ramp.
Right.
I need to find a strategy that benefits me, but at the end of the day, if I need to walk away because they're asking me to step outside of myself, I can do that. And I think that that's the
Mm-hmm.
decision that a lot of people don't realize. One day you're gonna have to make it. Either you're gonna have to choose to be, especially as a black woman, it's just what it is. I'm not gonna say that it's impossible for a black woman to climb that corporate ladder. We see it all the time. But I hope it is clear that that black woman who you've seen climb that corporate ladder, she's had to make some very difficult choices. She's had to put up with a lot of attempts to assassinate her character, to remove her of her confidence, to force humility on her that is unnecessary but is required to be able to be in certain spaces and sit in certain
Mm-hmm.
rooms. And that's not a knock on that black woman, more power to her, but she's had to make some very difficult decisions and really, you know, find other ways to maintain her self-confidence and her inner strength to be in that space.
You're
And
absolutely right.
unfortunately, it's one of those things that, if you're not built for it, it can break you. And so your best bet, if you find yourself to be somebody who wants to be in that position in corporate, again, y'all heard me talk about it. Find yourself something to believe. Find your faith. Find you something to believe in. Find you things outside of your corporate job
Yes,
that
yes,
allow you to ground
yes,
yourself, because
yes.
without it, it will break you. It is inevitable. That is the way the corporate structure works. If you are not white and male, it was never built for you to
That
succeed, and
anyway.
you're tricking yourself. And I'm not saying this to discourage anybody, but I'm just giving you the real. If you are not white and male, the corporate structure was not made for you. As a matter of fact, it was built on the expectation of your demise. And
Right.
so if you are choosing to participate in it, you must have other things outside of it that keep you sane. You just have to.
Well, I totally agree, and I can say that for my own background and training. I was the first and to date only African American woman who was involved in one of the top insurance companies in mergers and acquisitions. I bought banks all over the world. They had to come to me if they wanted to do mergers, or they go to the Fed, take your pick. But the level of when I look back and see the stuff I put up with because I wanted the money and the prestige and the job. And the truth of the matter is if they could have replaced me with an equivalent white male, because they
In a
tried.
heartbeat.
Oh no, they tried. And it was just that I was just too daggone smart, and I knew too many people that would facilitate what I was doing in other areas of the industry. So I was able to sustain, but there did come a point where I had to go. And
Yeah.
I mean, you can go through all kinds of ego-centered behavior, but as I tell folks, you quit or you're fired. One or the
Yeah.
other. You quit, so get over any emotions attached to, oh, I was fired. Did you quit? No, then you were fired. And unfortunately, and I say this in all truth, many white guys are experiencing this now because the level of white male participation in the corporate world has collapsed. White guys are not feeling it like that. They're not like, I'm not putting in 50 years, 40, 30, 20, 10 years into an organization that does not have any level of integrity and commitment to me. That's what I am seeing now. And I find it really, really different when you hear white guys talking about, he's a jerk and he's done this and I mean, I'm like, whoa, this is different. This is different.
Yeah.
But
I
it's,
think I think especially after the pandemic, and how people were losing their jobs, businesses were collapsing.
yeah,
Um, I think that we are living in a renaissance of entrepreneurship right now.
I'm so
I think that so many
happy.
people,
I'm so happy.
I think that so many people saw how people took, the devastation of job loss during COVID,
Oh,
and decided to make something out of nothing. I think that has inspired so many people to just get out there and go into business for yourself. Nobody, and especially now too, with everything that's going on with the government and the insecurity of social security.
oh, it's
Like,
over.
there are a lot of us my age who don't even we no longer even most millennials that I know, we've already accepted the fact that there will be no social security for us. And
There
so we have now
isn't.
seen
There
fit.
isn't. There isn't.
We've seen fit to find other
Mm-mm.
ways to supplement our retirement. And a lot of that is having something like our own business to, if need be, either, you know, feed into a retirement fund with the profit from that. Especially if you're somebody who's still working, but a lot of times most of us have a side hustle. I still have a side hustle. I do social media freelance. I'm about to start a project in a couple of weeks that I'll be getting paid for. That'll be going straight into my savings. I won't use any of that money. It'll go straight into a savings
Right.
because I'm past the point of relying on Social Security because I just don't believe that I'll have it. But I
Nope.
think that, like I said, after the pandemic and watching people lose their job and then make something out of nothing, we are in a renaissance right now when it comes to entrepreneurship. And I'm not mad at it because I understand too that we are also, millennials, we are the generation of, I'm not going to take whatever just because you sign my
Mm-mm.
check. I'm
No.
not. I don't have to. I think we actually have a natural aversion to certain kinds of authority, if I'm being honest. And I
Right.
think that plays into how we interact in the workplace. Like, you're not going to treat me however you would like to treat me and then not even pay me enough to live.
Right.
We
Right.
just, we're not that generation. And so I think because of things like that as well, we are a lot more prone to building a side business or going into business for ourselves. And yes, that comes with certain challenges, but it's a lot better, or it feels a lot better to work hard and put a lot of time and effort and hours into my own thing
Mm-hmm.
versus giving my whole life away to somebody else's business.
Well,
And I
that's
and
one of the
I I
things.
have to respect
Mm-hmm.
that.
Well, you are well on your way, because you understand here how this game, and it is a game, and with every game, you got to know the rules, you got to know the players, you got to know the limitations, and you got to not lose yourself in the midst of this mess. Because I have seen so many, many, many of my peers, white men, white women, black, and I will tell you, the assumption that they're going to do you right is wrong. In
Yeah.
capitalism, it is about profit, and it's about using people to work for you for less than they should. That's how you make profit. You do it at the expense of your employees, and you don't really care. Now, there were several times in history where there was some concern about the average worker and all of that, but that's over. I mean, you out here, and I tell young women, get it. If you got to bake 50 pies to establish yourself as a pie maker, sell them and make the money and bank it. Because at the end of the day, your parents can't tell you how to survive, because truth of the matter, they didn't survive. They got their little Social Security checks from a fund that's getting ready to run out of money.
Mhm.
2032, I think, is it. And they believed that hard work and following the rules would bring rewards. What kind of rewards? Advancement financially, title advancement, positional advancement. And then to find out at retirement, you get a ring, a watch, and a
Yeah.
goodbye. And a
Yeah.
goodbye, and have a nice life, whatever life you want with no money. And that is the reality. I think your generation is you all watched it, you saw it, you
For
saw what your
me, I saw it in real time. I
I'm
saw it in real time. I was
go
raising
on
my
and talk
grandmother.
about it.
She was still working when she got me. And then around the age of 13, I believe, is when she retired.
Okay,
And
she
my
retired at,
mother's my grandmother has never made a whole lot of money. Like, she never
yep.
she worked in the cafeteria of a hospital, so she wasn't making a whole lot of money. But she's in a situation right now where I watched her just go through a whole lot of stuff financially that when it came to her retirement, I'm not gonna lie to you, I wasn't all that pleased, especially hearing her talk about some of the things that were happening when she was still working.
Yeah.
She'd been working there for almost 40 years, and the positions that would have set her up for a decent retirement, that would have set her up for a good retirement, they were overlooking her for opportunities.
Of
How do you
course.
compete? How do you compete with some like how do you compete with 20 and 30 years of experience on hand, and then when the opportunity for supervisor or or manager comes up, you skip over 20 and 30, 40 years of experience to give the job to a guy who has a who just got out of college with a fresh degree and don't know nothing about what it takes to run a hospital kitchen. But I mean, like things like that. I saw that happen to her so many times, over and over again. Where it's like, well, what do you actually value? You have somebody who has been doing this in this space, who knows this kitchen like the back of her hand, who knows what, whenever anything goes wrong, this is the person that the manager comes and asks questions and
Right,
expects to fix
right.
problems and things like that. But you cannot give, but you refuse to give her the position of actually running this kitchen and making the money that she's worth, because she doesn't have a college degree.
That's ridiculous. But that's what AI is shifting. I'm telling you, at the point a computer can make a better judgment call than most of corporate leadership today.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
think about that. Your grandmother had a skill set and an experience set that would have been perfect if we were in a perfect world.
Yeah.
The experience. She was a black woman working in a kitchen, and her manager's manager was some white man who lived in a better part of the city and had a wife at home, kids, private school. He had no clue because he never had to do it. And the reason he never had to do it is because of his color and because of his training and because they weren't going to let him do it. That's
And
something.
also, if we're just being honest about how things work in the city, in Cincinnati where I'm located, I literally just had this conversation with a friend of mine. A lot of what happens here is nepotism. That's
Oh
also
my
a factor
God,
that we
yes.
never talk about, that
Yes,
we
it is
never
nepotism.
discuss.
Yeah,
When it comes to corporate, a lot of the people that you run into, they are such and such's son or
right.
son-in-law or brother or brother-in-law, or like it's almost inevitable that you run into things like that. I literally just had a conversation with somebody yesterday, as a matter of fact. A lot of the people who are in upper management in a lot of these corporate offices around the city, they are family. They
Yes,
are, this is my son or my son's brother, or my brother's son, or whatever the case may be. That you run into that every single time, and then you start to understand why there doesn't seem to be enough opportunities for a person of color, or anybody, really anybody else that's not in that inner circle, to really
right.
succeed, because there is that element of nepotism that you cannot escape it, and that makes it even hard. And when you mentioned earlier, when you said that now even white guys are kind of like feeling the brunt of being part of a corporate structure, my first thought was, it's because they don't know they don't know enough people. It's because they're out of network. It's because they are not benefiting from the nepotism that exists in that corporate structure.
And you're
What we
right.
what
I'm just telling you, as
it
I went to Walnut Hills High School. Cincinnati is a German city.
Yeah.
Nepotism is a part of their culture. The home
Yeah.
ownership, they pass the home to the grandchildren. They run a tight ship. Germans have always run a tight ship from education. I mean, the absurdity of having to take an entry exam to go to Walnut Hills High School to establish yourself among the elite. And of course, there were no black kids there because the exam was tilted. But here we
Hmm.
are in a city that is so off track to where this country is trying to go. Everybody did not come out of Germany. This a big world. All kinds of people live out here today with all kinds of expectations. But when you have that type of culture and mindset that says the only person that gets ahead in this city is somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. And how
Mm-hmm.
many people are you talking about here? I mean, this has got me in trouble because I had to leave this city. I'm a graduate of Walnut Hills, have alumni, all that stuff, but I had to go to New York City and I had to do East Coast as a kid. When I graduated at 17, I was like, next, I can't
Yeah.
live like this. I don't
And
see it.
that's usually the general consensus. Like, I know, especially when we were coming out of high school, a lot of us were like, okay, we're getting out of Ohio, where are we going?
I,
Because you just, when you grow up in it, you kind of already know what it is. It's not even something that you have to be told. When you live here and you grow up here, you just
yeah,
kind of, it permeates through everything.
it
When you go
does.
downtown and you understand who owns what, and what businesses are connected to what businesses and all of that stuff, it becomes very apparent that, oh, it's a very small subset of white people
Yep,
who own everything and make most of the decisions for most of the corporate offices and the corporate businesses
yep.
that exist in this city. And if you are not some way somehow connected to that small inner circle, you're gonna have some very difficult challenges trying to find your footing. And I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but it is going to
Huh.
be very difficult, and it's going to come with a lot of, like I said, a lot of attempts to either scapegoat you for certain things, use you for certain things, kind of use you as a stepping stone in certain ways. Like, it just comes with a lot of things that you have to be prepared to be extremely strategic about either navigating or avoiding. And it gets 10 times as hard when you are, a black person, and then on top of that 10 times, you get another 10 times when you are a black woman,
Well,
because
I
your
will
face was
tell
never supposed
you.
to be in those places anyway.
No, and I will tell you in terms of credentialing and all of the above leadership, Cincinnati Class 7, Ohio Hall of Fame, Athena Award, all this stuff, name on the state capitol. But Cincinnati is notorious for being totally incestuous in terms of relationships and the fact that they want what they want and they don't feel that they have to march to anybody else's drumbeat. This is a part of the culture here, which people that are not from here don't even understand, and therefore they leave. My next door neighbors, who are part of the soccer league here, he's traveled all over the country playing soccer, and he and his wife are getting ready to say adios. These are white people, young, bright, talented, world traveled, because the neighbors are so mean. I
Mm.
mean, mean. And I told them, I said, you needed to have done a study of this community before you relocated here. I said, because this is not typical of life in the USA. This is typical of life in Cincinnati. You're either German or you're Appalachian. And if you're
Yeah.
German, you got the houses, you got the money, you got the legacy. And if you're Appalachian, you're poor, you're broke, you ain't got nothing. And if you're black, the question is, why are you here? We got Detroit, we got Columbus, we got Dayton. Why? What made you stay here and experience this level of abuse? I mean, these are
What I'm
things
learning
we,
is that for a lot of black people in Cincinnati, which I've kind of just thought about it, but it makes sense. A lot of the black population that is here is has migrated from the South.
but they
Personally,
didn't.
in my understanding, or in my own personal family history, my grandmother was born in Alabama, Canton,
Yep,
Alabama.
yep.
She got married at 18, fresh out of high school. Her husband was stationed here with the army. Her
Okay.
husband is her first husband was a soldier in the army, and he was stationed here. That's how my entire family in Cincinnati is here, because of that one decision to move here with her husband. The rest of her siblings went to Texas. But
Okay.
she came and followed her husband here. And then you have certain conversations with other black folks and you realize, oh, my grandfather or my great grandfather is a veteran and was stationed here. And so that becomes a lot of it. And you understand that it ain't even necessarily a conscious decision that was made. A lot of these people were just military families who came here for an opportunity to get out of the South because they were sick of the blatant racism. They was trying to get away from the South. And now we're here. And so I
Yeah.
think that is a big portion of why you see a lot of us here. Or if we didn't come from like the deep South, a lot of us migrated from Kentucky
You're
because
right. I'm a
Kentucky has
Kentuckian. Yeah.
its own
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. Kentucky
Yeah.
has its own
Yeah.
history. You know,
Kentucky is
Ohio,
Kentucky.
Cincinnati specifically was the line in the sand between, you know, free and enslaved. So
Right.
black people who were freshly freed from slavery came through Kentucky into Cincinnati and you had to pay a fee, unfortunately. But getting to Cincinnati was the goal because it guaranteed, for all intents and purposes, it guaranteed that you would not be recaptured and sent back into slavery. And
Prayerfully.
so that's a big portion of why we exist here as well. A lot of us just crossed that line and was like, you know what, I'm tired. I'm not going no further.
Well, and I'm saying this because our time is wrapping up, and this is just we could talk a whole lot more from your
Yeah.
perspective as a young black female in that world versus myself. And yes, we're Kentuckians, and like I told my family, why the heck didn't we keep moving like the rest of our family? Go on to Detroit, go on to Cleveland, go to Chicago. Why did we stay here in a community that hated us, and we were never ever given an opportunity? But I just wanted to say to you, in the remaining time that we have, quickly, what would you say is the number one recommendation that you would make to young black women today in this world system? Make it short.
Um, don't search for what optically looks right. Search for what feels right.
Ah,
Tap into your calling. Tap into that thing that you might not even talk about it much, but it's that thing that sets your heart on fire every time you think about it. Every time somebody around you is acknowledging it or talking about it. That thing that makes your heart warm. Your calling and your purpose lies somewhere within that. And every time you deny it, every time you ignore it, you end up keeping yourself in misalignment. The goal is alignment. That's it.
thank
That's
you.
all.
I appreciate that insight for myself, by the way, because I too am in a fork in the road, not in terms of retirement, but just in terms of where we are as a system, and looking for a whole lot different outcome for most people. In my closing remarks, I want to thank you, number one, Raven, for coming on the show. I wanted
Yes,
to
ma'am.
focus on you because I thought you were such an extraordinary woman, modern in every way, and that we could always have a frank dialogue about where things were going. So I want to thank you for contributing in the way that you have. Your transparency and openness was again refreshing. It was just refreshing. And for those of you that are listening in, I hope you enjoyed the dialogue, because this is what we got waiting in the wings. You better get it together. You better get it right. You better take the risks that are necessary to engage in conversations with these younger people. They are not superficial. They are right on it. They right in it. And I'm going to tell you for myself, I'm honored and grateful that they have figured it out. It doesn't look the way it looked for us because we didn't figure it out. But I think they figured it out. So in closing today's segment on Raven Munday, my guest, I want to thank all of you and have a blessed day. You take care. See you next time.